Cool. So today what we're going to do is we're going to deploy the app that we were working on yesterday and the day before, this little login reg app, and I've got the instructions up here for Django deployment. So the first thing that we're going to need to do is actually create a Git project for a Git repo for our project, okay? And I've already done that in here. However, since you guys didn't see it, I'm going to go ahead and do it again for your benefit. So there's this hidden file, and I'll show you guys in here when you create a Git repo. Let me see if I can find it. Whoa, am I in the wrong directory? Sorry about that. Let me go back to this guy here. Okay. So here inside of our, and I'll deactivate our environment, inside of here we should see a hidden folder called git or .git right there. And what that means is that this is what houses all the information for a Git repo. So if I want to kill my repo or essentially like eliminate it, all I need to do is delete that folder. Okay, so I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to do rm-rf.git. Okay, so now it's like there is no Git in here, and if we were to say Git status, you'll see there's not a Git repository here. Okay, I'll try to make this a little bit bigger.
Are we required to deploy it?
No,
Okay.
no. This is only if you're seeking that black belt status. So the black belt exam will have some extra features that you have to do, and then you also have to deploy it.
That's
Okay.
Yeah,
But passing is just a red belt, and you don't need to deploy for that. All right. So you can see it's not currently a Git repo, so let's just create one. We'll say git init, and that initializes an empty Git repo. And then I'm going to do git add dot, which will add everything in this current directory that we're in to, it's what's called staging. So I'm staging these files so that I can then commit them afterwards. Okay. Now if I run git status again, you'll see all of these files that are in green here are staged to be committed. So let's do that. We'll say git commit, and then I'm just going to add this little -m, which means I'm setting a message to go with my commit. We'll just say this is the initial commit. Okay. However, note that this repo right now is only on my machine. Okay, it doesn't have a remote source for it, and that's something that we're going to have to add, because what you guys are going to do if you're deploying is you're going to put it in a remote repo like on GitHub or Bitbucket as well would work. And then what you're going to do is you're going to clone that from its remote origin to your virtual machine that you're going to set up. Okay. So again, I was testing this deployment stuff last night, and I set up on GitHub a repo for this. So let's just go and oops, where the heck are my repos? Your repositories. Okay, so let me just delete what I had already. It's just this login reg one. Yeah. So let's go to shoot. There should be a settings in here somewhere. Oh, there it is. Yeah. So if we go to settings, we can actually delete the repo, and it's way down here at the bottom in the danger. All right. So I have to actually type this out. I understand. Oh, I know, not that. I'm sorry. I just need to type in the name of the repo. Okay. Oh, come on. Thank goodness I have LastPass. All right. Okay, so we deleted the repo, and then obviously we're going to recreate it so that you guys can see that part of the process. So let's go back. There's some extra information in here which we're not really going to cover. You can obviously read this on your own. There's some information about this thing, GUnicorn, aka GUnicorn. However, we're just going to get right into the setup. So the setup is going to talk about actually freezing the requirements And as you guys know, we've been using these virtual environments to actually install the requirements that our projects need. So here, I think I already have the requirements.txt. I'll just delete that and we can recreate it. So rm requirements.txt. Okay, now it's gone. So what we're going to do is we're going to run this command here to actually freeze. It's called pip freeze, and it will put all of the dependencies into this requirements.txt file. So in order to do that, I actually have to activate my environment. Let me just close that out. Okay, so my environment, I believe, is a couple levels up. Django, whoa, Django, bin activate. Okay, so it's activated now, so I should be able to run pip freeze, and then we're going to put them into the requirements.txt. Okay, now let's see what that actually did for us. Created this file here, and as you guys can see, oh shoot, I know that's pretty squashed. Let me just drag this down here. So you can see it's actually showing these are the dependencies that we have installed in this particular environment. Okay, so bcrypt and Django are the only ones that I installed. So where do you think these other guys probably came from? Yeah, they're probably sub-dependencies, right? Good. All right, so let's keep going. We freeze the requirements, and then we want to remove some things from it. PyGraph viz, PyDot, and anything with MySQL. I don't think we had anything like that, did we? Oh, 6. Did it say remove that as well? No? Okay. So we can skip that part. We also did we made a Git repo already, but let's just start from scratch here on the GUnicorn. So I've got this file called GUnicorn, and we'll just remove it and recreate it. Okay. What the GUnicorn file does is it basically tells Git, I don't want these particular files to be included in my repository. Okay, so just skip over those and ignore them, pretend like they don't exist. So we're going to create this file. Again, it's .gitignore. And then we're going to drop some stuff in there. And these are the things that we want to ignore. We don't want the PyCache folder. We don't want a VS Code folder, if there is one. I don't believe there is. And we don't want a virtual environment. We also don't want SQLite. Why do you guys think we don't want SQLite?
Because we don't want to post our entire database.
Yeah, I mean, we may have like a test database that we've been working on for development. We don't need to actually have that be part of the repo. So inside of our GUnicorn, let's just paste these guys in there. Good deal. And what do we need to do next? Let's keep going here. So these are the steps to actually create a repo, and we already did these things. So we did the git init. We also did the git add. In my case, I just did dot to add everything in that directory and all subdirectories. You could also do -- all, would be to add all the files. And then we committed with a message, right?
We don't need to re-initialize it, that we can change it to that subject folder.
Well, yeah, so actually we're kind of cheating. We don't really need to commit again because the GUnicorn that I had before is exactly the same as what I have now. So Git's looking at that and saying there aren't any changes at all. Yeah.
Where do you, in Git, where do you have like DB scripts? Would you publish DB scripts with the Git project? Do you need to make table changes?
You mean like if you mean
Like
your
say
migrations or something like that?
Say your project deployment needs table updates, schema updates. Would you publish that as part of the Git project, or how would that work?
You probably would. However, in our case, we're going to make the migrations on the remote server. Yeah. So What we've got right now is, again, we've got this local repo, but it doesn't actually have a remote origin. So what we're going to do is we need to create that project in GitHub so that we can host it remotely. So I'll come up here and I'll say new repo. And then we'll just call it login reg. Okay. I'll make this public, but when you guys do your exam, don't do that. Make it private, okay?
Right.
For obvious reasons. So let's create it, and then once it's created, we're going to push all of our local repo stuff up to it. Okay, and you can see it actually gives you the commands here to do this. So I can go git remote add origin here, and then I could just push to that master branch. So let's do that here. Oh shoot, it's going to require me to log in. Oh, you know what? Hang on one second. I think that's because... Why is it doing that? Oh, that's annoying. What's that? Yeah, I know, that's the thing. I should be able to do it through SSH. Here, let me just change this here. So if I go like this, if I change the origin to this SSH origin, it should be okay. So let me just try these guys. So there are two ways to interact with GitHub. You can either go through the HTTPS, which is what we were using there, which means you'd either have to have your credentials saved or you'd have to log in like it's trying to make me do it. Or you can use SSH where you actually have something, basically your credentials are going to be saved in a file on your computer, and that's what I want to do. Failed?
Because it thought you were logging in. Or, I'll try logging in.
Yeah, but I just added the origin of that. Invalid username or password. Git push origin master. Well, that should be okay. Remote origin. Oh, because I need to actually change the remote origin. I didn't read that error there. So let's back up here. So our origin is going to be this, but we need to actually set it. So we would say git remote set set URL, right? Origin. Okay, let me try to push to master now. Okay, there we go. Okay, so you can see it said here it's set up branch master to track remote branch master from origin. That's what we wanted. So we're good to go. Small little hiccup there. Let's get back to our instructions here. So on the next thing, they're just talking a little bit about AWS and EC2. That's what we're going to use for our deployment. So if you do plan to deploy, make sure that you set up your AWS account ahead of time, because sometimes I've seen where people had a little bit of a delay in that. They couldn't use it immediately. Okay, so they're just telling you what to do. You need to log into AWS and so forth. And then this is telling us what kind of server we want to run. Notice here that it says this is free tier eligible. This is crucial. So you guys, if you've set up a brand new account, you're going to get 12 months of what's called the free tier. And you can set up these EC2 instances only one at a time for free usage. Okay?
Is it one web app, one web server, one? It's just a single stack.
Well, you could have multiple things running on it. However, like the way that we teach the deployment here, it's generally kind of assumed that you're doing one project on that at a time. But you could definitely run more than one project on it if you.
So one app server, one.
Yeah, exactly.
Do they limit your traffic? I don't know. Like, I don't know enough to.
It's nothing that would hamper you at this point. Yeah, I mean, there are some limits to the free tier usage, but it's not anything that should cause a problem for you. So what we want to do is we want to launch an instance. So once you're in your console, you would click to go to the EC2 dashboard. Okay. Let's launch an instance. Okay, and the one that we want is going to be this Ubuntu Server 18.04. You can see matches up with what we saw in the picture. This is free tier eligible. So let's select that. Okay. And then we're going to review and launch, which is going to allow us to create some different configs here. We've got the security groups. I believe that's the first thing that we're going to change here. So we clicked review and launch. We're down here. We want to actually edit the security groups. So let me bring this over here. Okay. In the security groups, I just click on this little edit here. And then my SSH, this is how I'm going to be dealing with the server through the command line. I'll be going through SSH. So if you want to just be able to do it here from the dojo, you would probably put my IP. Otherwise, if you know maybe you're going to be SSHing from home as well, you may want to do anywhere. Obviously, that's not as secure, but if you need to access it from home and practice deployment and from here, then you do anywhere. Then we also want to add HTTP, and we want to say we'll make it accessible from anywhere. That way anyone can check the website no matter where they are. Another one for HTTPS. Probably not strictly necessary since you guys aren't going to be deploying with HTTPS, but again, we'll set that to anywhere. And then you can review and launch there. Let's make sure we didn't miss anything. Okay. What else? Next, what we're going to do is we're going to create a key pair, and this is going to enable us to actually log into the remote server. And if you guys have deployed already, so once you get to the second stack, if you've already done it, once you get into mean, you'll be able to reuse your key pair if you want. Okay. So let's launch this guy. Okay.
Or like if we do this today, then can't we reuse it for else?
Yes, you can. Exactly. Yeah, so once you have a key pair, you can reuse it. For the sake of this, I'm just going to create a new key pair. And we'll call it deployment demo. Download the key pair. Then it downloads right away. Good to go. All right. After launching your instance, you'll see a screen with a bunch of information. Let's launch the instance so that we can get there. Okay, your instances are now launching. Good. And then we've got, we're actually going to want to connect to the instance in a second. So they mentioned down here you can actually name your instances in the event that you have more than one. But again, if you had more than one running, you would then start to be billed. So keep it to one unless you want to pay. All right. Let's keep moving. Server access. So Windows users, I guess, have some special instructions here. You cannot use the command prompt for this. Use git bash or another terminal that allows for SSH. You guys who have done Windows subsystem for Linux, you should probably be in pretty good shape on that.
Thank you, Sean.
Sean, where is Shant? Where'd he go? All right, so let's go to the actual instance. Here we go. And if I click on this connect here, it should tell me what I need to do to connect. All right, it's telling me that I actually need to make a modification to the permissions of my my key file. You can see it says we need to run chmod 400 deployment_demo.pem. That's the name of the key pair that I just created. So let's go into my downloads folder where it actually is. I'll just create another terminal here. CD downloads. and then I'm going to make this change to my deployment demo PEM, which would make it available to actually log into my server. All right, then the next command is we can just do this guy right here. So it's SSH-I, and the -I is telling it what credentials we want to use. So in this case, it's deployment_demo.pem. And then this Ubuntu at this address is the actual address of the EC2 instance that I just launched. Okay? So you can just literally copy and paste this guy into a terminal. Actually, yeah, let's go into here. So let's just, it's going to say that the authenticity of the host can't be established. Are you sure you want to continue? Yes, we do. Okay. So what looks different here?
That's your IP address?
We are actually, yeah, we are actually logged into this server right now. We're at the command line of the server itself. Okay? And if you need to exit out of there, you could just type in exit and that'll take you back to your regular terminal. All right. So let's keep going here. We've done the connection part, as we saw here. Prompted to continue, so we're already there. Let's get to the next spot. We need to actually configure the server. So the first thing we want to do is we want to run this sudo apt-get update command, and that's going to update the Ubuntu for us. Update. Okay, and then while it's doing that work, we'll look at the next step here. The next thing that we need to do is install this thing called Nginx. This is a web server. Right? See if that's done. Good. So apt-get install Nginx. And then it's going to ask you if you want to continue because it's going to take some extra space. Yes, I do. Good. All right. Check out step 4. What are we doing here, guys? We are cloning the actual repository that we just set up on GitHub. All right. So if I go to my repo here, and let me just refresh this. Okay, so now I've got the code up in here, and if I go click on clone, I can change this to use HTTPS. So this way I don't need to actually, pass my credentials. All right. In your guys' case, you probably will have to log in from the remote server, because if you make it as a private repo, it's not going to be accessible to everybody. All right. So let me go back to the beginning of this. Git clone.
You're only able to use HTTPS because you made it public.
Mm-hmm. Well, you can still use HTTPS if it's private. It's just that then it's going to ask you for your login credentials, your GitHub login. Okay, so we're good there. We cloned our repo. Now what we need to do next is we also need to install this Python 3-venv. What do you guys think that is? Yeah, it'll allow us to use virtual environments on this virtual machine. All right. Okay, again, we need to confirm that we do want to do that. All right, cool. And then now here's something I want to point out. You'll see throughout these instructions, you'll see a lot of double curly brackets. So this is very critical that you replace that with the actual name of your repository. If you don't, you're going to run into errors. So let's not do that. Let's just cd. Say that again?
Without the curlies?
Without the curlies, yeah. So here, all I want to do is just cd into my project directory, which again was called loginreg. Okay, now I'm inside of it. And what we want to do is create this virtual environment. So that's what that's doing. Python 3-m. We're running the venv command, and then we're calling it venv. So I know that looks kind of confusing. It's like we're venv. sort of thing. All right. Okay, so that should have created our virtual environment, and if we do ls here, or I'll do it like that, see we now have this venv folder. That's our virtual environment. Of course, what do we need to do once we have it? Activate it, right? It's the same stuff that we've been doing locally. So source venv/bin/activate. Okay, and you can see our little virtual environment is activated. We've seen that a lot. All right, let's keep going. Now we have to install the dependencies that we need. So obviously we need Django. Okay, so pip install Django equals 1.0. Okay, and then we want to install bcrypt. So pip install bcrypt. And then the other thing that we want is this thing called GUnicorn. Okay, and that's going to do some other work for us, which we'll get to in a little bit. So pip install GUnicorn.
So you're doing these installs even on a local? It's just hitting this HTTPS?
No, all of this stuff is happening on the remote server now.
I'm saying when I do it even locally on my machine, where's it fetching the actual package from?
From the pip package repository.
That's already local, or is it?
No, that's not local. That's
doing
remote.
the fetch?
Yeah, exactly. So you'd have to have network connection when you're doing pip installs. Yeah. Okay. So we now installed GUnicorn. Let's keep moving here. The next tab is a little bit about using this text editor called Vim. And it's a text editor that you can use from your command line, which obviously we're doing things from the command line here. These are kind of the key commands that you guys need to know. Pressing I to actually insert text into a file. Pressing escape to exit the insert mode. And then colon, when you're not in the insert mode, will allow you to exit in some different ways. So I can go colon right just to save the file. I can go colon WQ to save and quit. And I could do colon Q and then the exclamation point if I just want to quit but not save whatever I'm doing. Okay? So they're showing you that because we're actually going to use Vim to modify a couple of the files in our project. Okay, and then they mention the things up here about the double curly braces. Like I said, anytime you see those double curly braces, you need to actually replace that. Okay, so now we need to go into the main project directory. And as you guys know, Django has this nested folder structure, so I also have another folder inside called loginreg. Okay, now we're inside there. And then what we're going to do is we're going to use this built-in text editor to change our settings.py a little bit. Okay, so we'll go vim settings.py. Okay, and you can see we can kind of scroll through our settings.py. It's kind of long, but let's see what changes we need to make. So we have to add a line that allows you to serve static content, and you'll also need to modify a couple of lines as follows. Okay. So here's what we need to do. We need to add to the allowed hosts the actual IP, our public IP of my EC2. So let's see what that is. So down here you see I've got my public IP, so I'm just going to click this little guy which will copy it for me. And then in my settings file I need to find where it says allowed hosts. Here we are. You guys remember how to insert into this? I, exactly. Oops, I need to put that inside there. Okay, and then when I'm done inserting, again, just press escape.
It's a debug equals false.
Before?
On the directions.
I don't know that it does it? Yeah, indeed it does. All right. Yeah, let's change that too then. Interesting enough, though, that didn't cause me any issues before. But basically what the debug being false would be is that you wouldn't see all of that logging that you guys normally see when you're running your Django projects.
I mean,
Yeah.
You wouldn't want to do that in a project.
Yeah, so if we're in a production environment,
So don't run with debug turned on in production. Right above it.
okay, good. Well, let's turn that off then. So let's escape out of here. And then there's one other thing we need to do. We need to set our static root. Okay. Notice how it says here, add this line to the bottom. Don't replace any existing lines. Okay. So I'll just scroll to the bottom of the file here. And then go over here, press I to insert, and let's drop that guy in there, static root. Escape. Remember how do we quit here? Colon, right quit, right? All right, anything else here? Navigate back to the folder that holds our manage.py. Make sure that the virtual environment is still activated, so should be, we'll just go up one level like that. And here I've got my manage.py. You can see our virtual environment has not been deactivated, so we're good to go. Gather all of the static files in your project into one location. So let's just run this, collect static. Okay? Python manage.py collect static. Okay, and yes, we want to do this. Whoa, I guess it didn't like that if I typed in Y, huh?
Why do you have to specify where your static files are and not? It seems like you're specifically setting up a static directory.
Right here in the collect static.
Yeah.
Why? You're just asking why are we doing this, right?
Yeah, why is it required? Why aren't you specifying? Because there's other files like it doesn't seem like you're specifying where your Python files are. Why is it specifically required to do this directory? You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think I get what your question is, and I believe it's because since we're running it in a different way than we normally do, and we're just basically using our debugging, it needs to actually collect all those files to be served, whereas normally it wouldn't. Yeah. So if you ignored your DB and or migration files, which we did, this is a great time to make and run migrations just as you would have done on your local machine. So we can do the exact same stuff that we always do. Python manage.py make migrations. No changes detected. .py migrate. Okay, cool. So we should have a working database in SQLite, obviously. Let's keep going. The next thing that we need to do is this GUnicorn step. This is our process manager. So basically this should keep our server serving this code even if, so for instance, let's say our computer went down or our instance went down briefly. When it comes back up, this process manager should restart the process for us so that specifically our app could still be served. All right, so let's test GUnicorn by just running this command. GUnicorn, the name of the project name, and then WSGI. Let's make sure that file even exists right now. So see, we have this, where is that file? Anybody see that? WSGI? I guess it's not there. Let's try to run this. Okay, so if we go login reg.wsgi, I believe that, okay, so basically it's just testing to see if we can get the process started. And if it worked as we expected it to, it's going to say booting worker with process ID, whatever the name of the process ID is. All right? So we're good to go. If you didn't get that message, I think there's some troubleshooting in here. Actually, not for that part. Okay, so now we're going to set GUnicorn to run as a service. And to do that, we need to edit this specific file using vim again. All right. So let's run this command. All right, now we've got this file that is, you can see down here, it's a new file. It didn't exist before. So we're just going to insert some text into it. And we got to be careful to make sure that we replace all these double curlies correctly, because otherwise we could run into some issues. So let's click I to insert. And now I've got this text in here. We just need to replace some things here. Oops. So again, my repo name was login reg. Let's replace it here. Be very careful with this because I messed this up when I was practicing this, and it was kind of a beast to debug. So make sure that you enter in your project name correctly. I can't seem to get to the end of this line here. Well, that's obnoxious.
It's one line, right?
Yeah.
It's only nested because it's screen cap.
Alright. Alright, so login reg, and then login reg.sock. And then finally we got login reg.wizkey.application. Okay, any other double curlies that you guys can see here? Let me escape out of that and make sure everything's good. Okay, cool. So let's again, we'll do WQ to write and quit. And then we have to do a couple things. We need to basically reload a daemon, which is our service. Then we need to restart GUnicorn, and then we need to check the status of it. Now I can't copy all of these guys because you could see it's trying to copy some other stuff we don't need. But let's just do them one at a time. So this guy right here. There we go. Reload. Come down here and do restart GUnicorn. Okay. Status. So let's make sure the status is good. Okay, so we got this nice green dot here saying that it's active. We're good to go. If you didn't get that, I think there is some troubleshooting down here just in case something went wrong, but from what I noticed, it was mistyping. If you mistype the name of your repo name or something, you're probably going to run into some issues. All right, let's get to the Nginx part. So now we need to create a new file to configure Nginx. All right, and I'm going to do this. Again, we'll replace the project name with our project name. So let's get out of this. To get out of this, we just do Control-C. Project name is login reg. And then we're going to drop in this Nginx configuration right here. Notice that we're going to have to replace a couple things. So again, I to insert, put that in there. I need to change my repo name, and I also need to change my public IP. So let's go grab that from the EC2 again. Copy that to the clipboard. Drop that in there. And then just change the repo name here. Login reg. I got to change it down here as well. So this is telling Nginx where to actually find the code that we're running here. Okay. Anything else that you guys can see I need to replace? No double curlies left, right? Good. All right, cool. Let's write and quit out of that guy. And we should be close to the end here. Now we're going to create a link to this file to let Nginx know what settings to use. So I'm creating what's called a symlink. And let's make sure that we don't end up with that little copy thing in there too. All right, let's just change the project name here. Ooh. login reg. Good to go there. So now we just need to test our Nginx configuration. So sudo nginx t. Said the syntax is okay, the configuration test was good. All right, and then the other thing that we're going to do is we're just going to remove the default configuration that came with Nginx. Not a big deal. And then finally, let's just restart Nginx. Okay. There you go. And we should be good to go on this guy. So let's grab that IP one more time. Right there. What do you know, man? Login reg is live. Woohoo!
We didn't do any styling now.
Yeah, that styling is looking pretty boss. Right?
Does it keep the relative URL paths?
Yeah,
With just the IP on the front?
yeah. So if I create a user, let's do that real quick. Password. Oh Jesus, my passwords didn't match. I'm gonna make it. Yeah, I'm gonna make it even shorter then. It'll be like a one-character password. All right. Yeah, so you can see we still have / homepage. Yeah. So that's it.